Welcome to Module 7, Section 1 of your California B2 Residential Remodeling Contractor Exam Prep course. In this lesson, we'll focus on how to clearly define a project's scope and identify the specific trades required to complete it. This may seem like a simple task, but in reality, it's one of the most important aspects of planning and executing a successful remodeling project. Getting it right affects everything, from bidding and scheduling to compliance with your B2 license limitations and avoiding costly project delays or legal issues. Every remodeling project begins with a vision, whether it's a new kitchen layout, a bathroom upgrade, or a whole home cosmetic refresh. But before you ever pick up a hammer or draft a contract, you must translate that vision into a clearly defined scope of work. The scope is your roadmap. It outlines what work will be performed, how it will be done, what materials will be used, and what the final product will look like. As a B2 contractor, you're legally responsible for ensuring that your scope aligns with your license classification and involves at least 3 unrelated building trades unless specialty licenses are held or subcontractors are used. So, how do you define a project's scope? It starts with a thorough walkthrough and client consultation. You need to listen closely to the homeowner's goals and expectations, and then assess what work will be required to meet those goals. Let's say a homeowner wants a kitchen remodel. That may involve demolition, new drywall, painting, plumbing fixture replacements, new flooring, cabinetry, countertops, and updated lighting. From a scope perspective, you're now looking at several distinct trades: drywall, painting, plumbing, flooring, carpentry, and electrical. That's well within the B2 scope, which requires at least 3 unrelated trades. But the exact scope matters. A kitchen remodel with only flooring and cabinets may fall short unless you subcontract or hold other licenses. Identifying trades is more than just listing tasks. It's about understanding the licensing implications of each task. For example, replacing a light fixture is usually within B2 scope. Running new electrical service from the panel is not. You need to know the boundary between what you can perform or manage directly under your license, and what requires a subcontractor with a C10 electrical classification. The same applies to plumbing. Swapping out a sink faucet? That's allowed. Rerouting hot and cold water lines? Not allowed unless you're properly licensed or subcontracted. The better you understand these distinctions, the better your scope documents will reflect reality and legal compliance. Another element to consider when defining scope is the material specification. Are you supplying fixtures, appliances, and finished materials, or is the homeowner? What level of quality or performance is expected? Vague scopes can lead to disputes, change orders, and unhappy clients. Be as specific as possible in describing materials, colors, finishes, and brands if known. Include references to applicable standards, such as California Title 24 Energy Codes or Cal Green requirements, when relevant. Scope definition also includes timeline and deliverables. How long is the project expected to take? Are you working in phases? Will the homeowner be occupying the space during construction? These factors influence how trades are sequenced, what prep work is needed, and how inspections will be scheduled. All of that ties back to knowing exactly what each trade is doing and when. Overlapping scopes or poor scheduling between trades can cause conflicts, rework, and extra costs. Avoid that by making the scope a living document that's clear, detailed, and updated as the project evolves. From an exam prep perspective, you should understand how the CSLB defines unrelated trades and how that affects B2 license compliance. You must also recognize when a scope is too narrow, such as only installing flooring, and would fall outside your license if performed without a C15 license or a properly licensed subcontractor. You may see exam questions that test your ability to identify which scopes qualify under a B2 license and which do not. It's also important to distinguish between scope definition and scope creep. Scope creep happens when additional work is added to the project without proper documentation, contract amendment, or price adjustment. Let's say the client originally wanted just a kitchen remodel, but midway through they ask for new floors in the hallway too. If that hallway work wasn't part of the original scope and contract, you must write a change order. Never assume verbal agreements are sufficient. Define the new scope in writing, state the additional cost, and get the client's signature. This is both a legal and professional best practice. Now let's talk briefly about trade sequencing. Once you've identified which trades are needed, you'll need to understand the logical order of operations. For example, demolition comes first, followed by rough framing or repairs, then mechanical rough-ins, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, then insulation and drywall, followed by finishes like flooring, painting, trim, cabinets, and fixtures. Knowing the order of trades allows you to schedule subcontractors efficiently, avoid worksite congestion, and reduce project delays. It also helps with coordinating inspections, which must be passed at key intervals, like rough plumbing or electrical, before moving forward. In addition to physical trades, don't forget administrative scope items like permitting, plan submissions, inspections, and final walkthroughs. These are all part of your responsibilities as the project manager. You must include them in your planning and make sure your scope reflects these critical non-construction tasks. In summary, defining a project's scope and identifying the required trades is the foundation of successful project planning. For B2 contractors, it's not just a business best practice, it's a legal requirement. Your license allows you to take on residential remodeling projects that involve at least 3 unrelated trades. You must clearly define the scope of work in writing, know where your license starts and ends, and bring in properly licensed subcontractors for anything outside your classification. This protects you, your clients, and the integrity of your business.